All right, the Read Smrt tag. Let's see if I can kind of do some preparatory work before getting home and doing the actual tag itself, which maybe I'll do today. Maybe I'll do some other day. Because yeah, now that I've taken my first run at it, and I'm not happy with that. I need to do another one. So it's the Read Smrt tag. It is done in collaboration with Ruben at Two Readers It May Concern and Emily at Prose and Petticoats. You can I'll link to their videos, which are very thoughtful, and it's all about how to read smarter. And they do seem to come from from an angle of reading literature, reading difficult books smarter. But they wanted to open it up to kind of other people, other experiences, other ways of doing things, and maybe other goals, because whereas their goals are definitely seem to be more in the kind of the high literature category. I know that while I read some of the stuff that's probably considered high literature, there's a lot of books that are I have a varied intake of stuff from a variety of genres. Literature being only one of them. Not really too much into philosophy and stuff like that. So yeah, I thought I'd just sort of give a run at this tag, and just be interested in hearing what various people's suggestions with stuff for how to read smarter are. And definitely checking out Ruben and Emily's versions of the tag, because they give some very interesting advice. It's interesting accounts of how they read smarter. So yes, let's go into the tag. What is your strategy to stay focused and engaged while reading? I think that's just when you actually have the book in your hand. It's to be somewhere comfortable. It's to have when it's possible to get good uninterrupted periods of just getting to sink into a book and read it. I think it's one of those things of just trying to make it a practice, I guess, is the main thing. Number two, how does your environment influence your focus, and what can you do to optimize it? As I said, finding a quiet spot. I don't listen to music. I'll try and make try and have find a quiet area to read. That said, sometimes I just vary. If I'm reading something, if I'm on the bus or I'm out and about and I just want to kind of, I like to get a little bit of reading done, maybe I will pick something that is a little less dense, and I'll read that, just to get a little bit more reading pushed into my life. So it's also definitely practicing reading in less than optimal conditions. Sometimes you're just not going to find it. It's just not going to happen, but you still want to read, so get that as well. And you talk about environmental on your focus. It's also just a matter of taking care of yourself. I definitely had a period there where I was not getting enough sleep, and my reading suffered as a result. That's a really basic thing. It's read, eat well, all that sort of stuff can contribute to exactly your mental acuity of how well you're able to. That definitely affects how I read. Number three, what methods do you use to retain and recall information from what you've read? Especially with ebooks, I'll put notations in there, usually just little signposts, so I can go back to it later after when I want to talk about the book, so that I can say, it's right here, and I can pull out quotes, or I can reread stuff like that. I also have a tendency to, while I'm reading a book, I will, after I've read a section of a book, if I've got lots of stuff on my mind, I'll just press record on here, play record, and just talk about the book, talk about the thing that interested me, that was oh, this, that, this, that, kind of as a way of just sort of incorporating it, making me think about what stuff. Number 4, how do you approach difficult or challenging material? I think firstly for myself, I just assess, you know, if the enjoyment I get out of a book is worth the trouble of reading the book. It's one of these things of like, I fairly strongly believe that if something is so dry and so flat and so just doesn't give me anything, there's no hints there that there's stuff, that maybe it's just not the book for me. If it's like I'm not finding the material, or how the material is presented, whether that's fiction or nonfiction, is not doing it for me, I might just put it aside. I spent a lot of my life going like, oh, you should whenever you start a book, you should just finish it, doggedly finish it. It's like, I am a slow reader, and I'm an even slower reader when I'm not enjoying myself. And that's just that can waste like, months of my time for something that, like, if I'm not enjoying it, I'm not taking it in, there's just no point. There's not a point in reading it. Like, yes, I will battle my way to the end of a book that I hated, or not even hated, but just bored me, and I won't remember anything at the end. So am I not just wasting my time, which is precious to me, on a book? That said, there's definitely some books that I've read that have been very challenging, but have kept me engaged the entire time. And I've really enjoyed those. And yeah, I will do a certain amount of, it's like, wow, I'm not understanding this book. I will look around for a little bit of help, to see if I can see like, oh, I need to look at it this way. And then, okay, it makes more sense. And then I can get into it. And you need that help. I don't think you should be, say like, I am the great reader and I never need any help. It's like, yes, sometimes you need help. But if you find it's like, I need help on every page, I need help on every sentence, and if I don't have that throughout the entire thing, if there's such an infrastructure that's not needed, it's like, well, I guess I should be taking a class in it. And I mean, I've had some books that I've taken classes where basically the teacher has been that kind of assistance throughout it, and really kind of opened up something, and it's like, wow, that's amazing. But it's like, it's the only way I was ever going to be able to read that book. And I'm thinking about some authors where it's the only way I've really enjoyed a book within classroom setting, but outside of that, it's not done it. I haven't been able to crack it open, and that's not an author I'm going to continue with. So yeah, there's that thing of I found that, like, for, especially when it comes to like kind of classics and stuff like that, 99.9999% of those classics, I think, can stand on their own, that they can have a one-on-one relationship with the reader, and there doesn't need to be a giant infrastructure to support them. They can actually live on their own. So there is that. Number 5, what role do note-taking and annotation take place in your reading process? I think what I said above. I try not to do too detailed annotations. I just find that just starts clogging. I end up not reading the book. I'm writing essays. So I think it's very much more kind of signposts that I can then go back to, and then after I've read the entire book, I can kind of elaborate. I can elaborate on it more. Number 6, how do you balance reading for pleasure with reading for personal or professional development? I think on just some fundamental level, I'm a pleasure reader. I'm not if the reading I do, there's some very minimal reading I do for my work, but I don't think it's a lot of my I would say it's not like a requirement, particularly for my work, that it's a requirement that I understand the materials and like kind of directions. I won't go into all that, but yeah, I'm a pleasure reader. But I'm a pleasure reader who reads for the pleasure of informing myself. I'm a pleasure reader who hopefully learns about other people, learns about the world, and learns about myself. So there is I guess personal development unavoidable. I expand this reading expands my world so much. So that's a development. Yeah. But I'm not I'm not reading for. I think Emily is a writer and she's like researching stuff, or Ruben is a teacher, so he is obviously having to kind of have materials that he's reading for work, which they both seem to just like also enjoy. But it's like, yeah, if I pick up a nonfiction book, it's because I'm going to maybe I'm interested in information, but B, I have to enjoy the book. And if I don't enjoy the book on some level, I'm probably not going to continue on with that book. I can find another book that maybe is more enjoyable on that. Number 7, what's the importance of setting reading goals? I've never set a reading goal for the number of books read. I'm always reading. I'm not a fast reader, but I've never felt I dislike the idea of having a go that forces me to read faster, because I read at the speed that the material that I need to absorb and process the material I'm reading, to live the material I'm reading, in most cases, because it's with its fiction, or just kind of get a handle of like nonfiction. I do have reading projects. Read a fair bit of Trollope that way. Read about a bit of Canadian history that way. That was one of these things of trying to find the books that were gonna get me there, which I'm still working on. I'm reading books published between 1890 and 1910, around my grandfather's birth in 1901, and I'm doing that as sort of that's the personal project of this is somebody who I'm blood related to, that I met, and that was born in this year, and it's kind of an anchor in time for me, or something like that. My God, I'm getting shit tons of glare. Luckily, this is just me practicing. So for me, I guess the importance of setting reading goals is it gives me some arbitrary goalposts, and from which to explore and find a whole another universe of books that I would have not known about otherwise, or I would have never considered picking up otherwise. It's all arbitrary. What I read in a sense is arbitrary. It's for kicks. It's because it's fun. What are some strategies for overcoming reading slumps or lack of motivation? As I said, I just always have read when I've been my most depressed or my most happy. Either way, I'm still reading. Can greatly change what I'm reading. If I'm horribly depressed, I might be picking something up that's very light and undemanding. Or I might be picking up something that really kind of helps me get fellowship and realize that I'm not alone in the world. So there's kind of an emotional coping thing that happens that reading really helps me with. It's not something that I need to be in a certain kind of strength level to get to. It's like, no, this is my base. The reading is in some ways is kind of a base from which I can operate. I think all I can say is, I'm a much more of a mood reader. I'm a mood reader that way. Is that read what's going to work for you, however you're feeling. If all the books that you read have just been unappealing and crappy lately, go reread a book that you love, and reread that. And work out from that, and try and find, like, okay, the other books like that. Try and build that library of books that are just like, I want to, and I love them. And yes, so that's all the tag questions. I will put all the people that I've got here to tag, and then I will thank Ruben and Emily. And I hope lots of people will do the tag. I think it's always interesting to hear how people read, and what are what are smarter ways to read, because I very much realize that I'm haphazard and kind of intuitive in what I do, and sometimes I just do things because I've always done them that way, and I don't want to. It's good to shake things up. It's good to figure out. It's good to try different things because it can really bring things more things, enliven things, and I think hopefully that's what the best kind of thing in this tag will do. Is there was a part of me that kind of reacted against, oh, I don't do stuff this way, I don't do that stuff that way, but it's like, that's the boring reaction. The interesting reaction is to go, oh, I've never thought about it doing that way, that would be interesting, I should maybe try just reading a little bit in the morning like Ruben said, or I'll find some other, I'll probably reread, listen to Emily and see some suggestions that she had, just little things that can make a big difference, or can just, like, you should always be trying to renew your reading. I've been doing it all my life, but I want to, I want to keep it a living thing. I don't want it to ossify into, I only do stuff this certain way. That's a good recipe for not being a interesting person. And we all want to be interesting, eh? All right, more videos later.